45 a.m. start today. No, like it has been true. It's been a weird year for trying to be in the studio together. Um, Here we are. We got here. The unofficial halfway point, more like the 60% point thereabouts for the Boston Bruins.
I know it's funny. I've been seeing the last few days some of the guys on social media post it's like pictures from the first half. It's like, dude, we're almost what do we get 25 games left?
First half was like Black Friday. It felt like that's like they had so many games. First week, like, all right, we're gonna do a 7-7. You're like, what? No, can't do that. It was a lot. But we made it. We made it. And the Boston Bruins are the 10th best team in hockey here at the halfway point, if you go by win percentage or point percentage, which I got to say, did not see coming. Did not see coming. I think specifically, I did not see this team scoring as many goals as they have. I did not see that part of their team coming. And talking to Marco after the game on Wednesday night down in Florida, he mentioned that he thinks this is a good time for the team to get a rest because when they get back, it's going to get real. And I think the best thing you can say about the Bruins right now is that they have generated some separation between them and the teams that are chasing them, which wasn't always the case. There were nights where, again, you'd go to bed and they'd be out of the playoffs. And the next day, okay, now they're back in it. Now they're out. Like, no, they got a decent amount of separation here between them and the ninth seed. But the ninth seed right now is the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are on fire under new head coach Rick Bowness. But I think that it's hard to look at what just happened in Florida, and we're going to get to that, and feel good about it. But at the same time, they get points. They get points out of games that they found ways to not get points out of a year ago. And I like that. I have to be glass half full. I think that's a hard road trip to do. Tampa and then Florida. I like the resolve. I like the compete. I do like what Marco said after both games. I think he's finding his edge as a head coach, and I think that's what's really interesting about this team. But here we are, proverbial halfway point. What's your big takeaway on this team right now?
Well, as you said, the surprise about the scoring that you have. Sounds like Marco Sturm has that same level of surprise. He talked about that earlier in the week. That the power play has been, we knew had to be better, but it has been head and shoulders better than I think most people expected, given that there really weren't any personnel changes. For most of the season, that top power play unit has been the same top power play unit as you had last year, and they had nowhere near the level of success. And a lot of the guys point to Steve Spott and what he's brought to the table in that regard, and one of the assistant coaches, the new assistant coach here under Marco. And, so listen, I go back to, and I think a lot of us do, the comments from the front office before the season started about trying to put a team together was going to be more difficult to play against. And we have seen that almost without fail every single night, even in games where they lose. Most of the games that they have lost this year have been fairly close games. They've been in those games. They've had a chance in those games. There are a handful where it just wasn't there that night. Most recently, the game down in Dallas was one of those games, just a couple weeks ago. And, that's going to happen along the way, even with good teams. Sometimes it's just not going to be there on that particular night. But night in, night out, they compete their asses off. And, with the high-end guys that they've got on this team, with Pasternak and Geeky, and on the back end, McAvoy's had a really good run here, especially since he came back from the broken jaw. He's basically a point-a-game player since that point. You've gotten, most nights, you've gotten some pretty good goaltending that, gives you the opportunity to win. They're doing everything that they can. And they've got themselves into the position that they were hoping to now going into the break, which is, put yourself in a playoff spot. Everybody is going to be crazy after we come back from this 3 weeks. Everybody in the league has 25, 26, 27 games left and like a month and a half to do it. It's going to be insane what that schedule looks like. And you have no idea who's going to be left standing at the end of that. None. There's going to be more injuries. That. There's going to be, a trade deadline in there. We know that. And so, I look at where the Bruins are right now, 4 points up on Columbus, who's got a game in hand, 4 points up on Washington. You have 2 games in hand on the Capitals. Then you get 6 points back. You've got Ottawa, Toronto, 8 points back to Philly and Florida. So as you said, you've put some distance in there, but it's still not. You're still by no means comfortable. And you would think, given where the run that they have been on since right before New Year's, right? Pretty much starting with you can go back 2 games before that, the game in Calgary that they lost in overtime, but really the New Year's Eve game against Edmonton was when they got hot. Given what they've done over that past 5-6 weeks, it's amazing to me that they're sitting in the second wild card right now, and they're still looking up at Buffalo. They're still looking up at Montreal and Detroit. Tampa's been otherworldly, but the top end of this division has been so good over that span. They haven't been able to catch anybody.
Yeah, it's been wild. The Atlantic Division has been the best division in hockey, to your point, for over a month now. Another reason why we should change this dumb playoff format, but that's a topic for another day. I admit. It's just an itch I'll always scratch. I hate this format. It stinks. No, but I think that you look at where they are right now, and what I liked about Wednesday was not them losing in a shootout. It was them mounting a multi-goal comeback in the third period, something they haven't done this year. We haven't seen that this year from them. And so that's another, little box you can check off for them and say, okay, all right, I need to see that, because you might have to do that late in the year. You might have to, do that in a playoff series in a game. These are important tests for them. And, the Tampa game, and again, we're going to get to that on the other side of the break here, but the Tampa game was infuriating, but it was also like, you know what? I kind of went into this game not thinking you were going to get a point. And so I have to be fair here and say, oh, you got a point. I hate how you got that point. I hate blowing a 4-goal lead, but you got a point I didn't think you were going to get. When you walk into Tampa and you say, hey, our top 3 centers are Marat Husadinov, Matty Poitras, and Fraser Minton, I'm like, oh, so nobody who's 24. Everyone's under 24. I'm like, against Tampa. Okay, you get a point. I don't love how you get a point, but you get a point, and that's kind of how I feel. And so, I think you're able to get 2 points. That when the plane left on Friday, I was like, you might be coming back 0-2 here. Maybe 1 point is the best case scenario here, given where you were and what you're hoping for. And so I have to be realistic with that. And it's a team right now that I am feeling surprisingly good about, but I also think that there are some things that do worry me. They do worry me, and we will get to that on the other side here. 617-779-0985. It is the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show.
The Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show will continue with Ty Anderson.
sitting behind the glass today. So I have to be honest with you guys. Ryan, I think you know my feelings on this. Outdoor games are not for people who are not going to outdoor games. And so if I did not go last Sunday, I'd be sitting here going, what a dumb thing. But when you're there, it's cool, man. It's cool. And I thought they did a great job with that game. We're going to get to the game part of it now, but I thought overall, you got a pirate ship, you got everything else going there. I had a fun time. I will say this though, it did open my eyes to go, I can't believe Tom Brady played for this Pirates Cove ass mini golf looking goofy franchise, but they embraced the campiness of it all, and I enjoyed that part of it. I have to say,
it was a lot of fun. As you said, the game itself is kind of secondary to a lot of the pomp and circumstance that comes with it. You just kind of go in understanding that. From my perspective as a broadcaster, it was about as tough a game as I've ever had to call because it's just tough to tell who anybody is. And I ended up watching a lot of it on the monitor in front of us to try and get some semblance of decent play-by-play out of it. But that said, at the end of the night, it was fun. It was and listen, the game has a lot to do with that. In that, I mean, we saw things in that game. I mean, regardless of which side you're on, you see a 4-goal comeback, you see a goalie fight, you see multiple disputed calls and or non-calls. You see an overtime game winner that apparently should have been blown dead like 30 seconds before that. I mean, it was crazy. And at one point when the Bruins were up 5-1, we're in there's 64,000 people there, and it was quiet.
Oh yeah.
It was quiet.
It looked like the crowd was not really thrilled. Just based, I think that was a weather thing. You're going down there. You're in Tampa, especially if you've been up here the last couple weeks. You're like, oh man, I can't wait to enjoy the nice warm weather. And they were doing crowd shots about when the players took the ice, and I would have thought they were sitting in Newark, New Jersey in this snowstorm.
You could definitely tell the locals from the New Englanders who had made the trek down.
Oh yeah,
just by how many layers of clothing they were wearing and whatnot, but. It was, the atmosphere, I thought, leading up to the game, and I didn't get to go out and experience any of the big tailgate thing that they had going on across the street there, but, we brought the buses through there on the way in, and that looked like it was jam-packed and all sorts of activities going on, and so the atmosphere it's so different than your just average run-of-the-mill regular season game at the beginning of February that look, over an 82-game season, there gets to be a monotony to this when you're doing this day after day after day. So when you can shake it up a little bit,
the Nashville game was that game.
Oh yeah,
I was like, this game this is a crawl right now. This is awful.
Well, the game in Florida the other night,
was
that that game took over 3 hours.
Oh, Bob, I know. I lived it. I lived it with you.
At the end of the first period. And there had been 28 or 29 face-offs in the first period.
Yeah.
Which is an average of one every 44 seconds.
Listen, when you have these 3 young centers, they got to get their practice. So chess, not checkers. That's what I'm saying.
It's like we were looking at each other like, oh my God. They know this is like the last game, right? We all have flights to catch and get the hell out of here and get to whatever we're doing during the break. That was brutal. But, so getting back to Sunday, anything you can do to kind of shake that up is great. And as you said, the fans that are there is what that game is really all about at this point. It's, Tampa's not exactly beautiful vistas and, amazing, amazing blimp shots and all of that. But if you're in the stadium, it was fun. It was it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, if you looked around, you would have thought you were in like Wakefield, Mass. And like, hey, quick shout out Wakefield. I got nothing against you, but like that was not like a pristine, like not like a great scenic view of anything. Because that is like Tampa, but it's like strip mall plaza area of Tampa, not like right on the water there. So you brought up the crowd, you both did, and here's my point. And I hate to be the fun sucker. Swayman picked the worst time possible for his first career fight. It woke him up. It woke up a dead crowd. It woke up a dead Lightning team. I feel bad for him because he wanted to fight for so long. He's talked about it, how he wants to get in a fight. He wants to get in a fight. That is the moment to do it, but it's also not. It was the turning point of that game, was that fight. It woke up a dead Tampa team.
Did it feel like you guys watching in real time? Because it felt like this watching at home. Did you feel like he forced the issue after Hagel kind of started poking for the puck there?
No, I get why he reacted that way. I mean, he's kind of corks. It's a whatever you want to call it, a screwdriver, can opener, whatever you want to call it.
I didn't think it looked so bad that it warranted the Ryan Miller leaping over the pile to get at a guy reaction that Swayman gave it initially.
But I think he was getting tired of that in general. That's been happening to Bruins goaltenders quite a bit this year, where guys just kind of jam away, dig away, and they're like, all right, enough. So I don't hate it in that moment, but I get why it happened, and it's a great. Listen, I was popping. I loved it. I thought it was great. But then after, I was kind of like, I don't love giving another. It's kind of like I don't love giving a team a fight if you're up by 4 goals in general. I think you see that with like regular skaters, like, I can't do it right now. Sorry, man. Like we're rolling. I can't give you juice.
Saw that against Philadelphia last week, where they won. Bruins are up 2-0, and Flyers start. You could tell some of their guys were itching to try and wake their team up, and Kastelik and Jeannot just kind of shrugged the shoulders and nope, not right now,
not doing it. And then after the game, they kind of talked about that. They talked about like the heavyweights settling it down and not letting it percolate, not letting it blow up, and. It's such a bummer because like it is a great moment. It's a cool thing we're talking about. Hey, a goalie fight in an outdoor game. Never seen that before. But timing wise, it was just not. It was like it was a mistake. Looking back on it, it was just a mistake. It woke up a. Watch the Lightning before that and then after that, 2 different teams. And by the way, that game was a joke in the sense that 7 straight power plays for Tampa. I've never seen that before. I went and looked it up. The last time it happened to the Bruins was 2006. It's been almost 20 years. And people are going to say, well, the Bruins are the most penalized team in hockey. I would say that. I would tell you.
Do you think that they might have like a reputation at this point in the year?
They absolutely do. But here's the thing. Tampa is the second most penalized team. So you're telling me that for the final 35 minutes of the game, Tampa committed 0 infractions, committed 7?
That was the thing is, at the end of it, look, you can be upset about some of the penalty calls against the Bruins. There were some that maybe you could have let go. But the bigger problem that I had was, how does neither trip against McAvoy get called in that game?
Right.
Like, he gets taken down right in front of the referee twice, and they don't call either one of them. Like, how does, the big scrum that breaks out, Kastelik gives, I think it was Bjorkstrand, a little shot in the back, and that kind of gets everybody riled up. That's got to be
even. That's got to be.
There's no way. Even. There's no way you walk away with a power play on that.
No way.
There's how does that happen? That's the kind of stuff that I point to and go, all right, what are we doing here? Like, are we trying to even things up? Are we, it's a 4-goal game, it's national TV. Are we trying to make this a little bit better to keep ratings up in the second half? If so, it worked because they got, monster ratings. But that's kind of where my issue was. Is, you had a couple of pretty clear penalties against Tampa Bay, and they went uncalled. So if you're going to call, Pasternak for that, little love tap slash in overtime, it's like, well, how are you not calling the more egregious, everybody in the stadium saw it type of penalties?
The Pasternak in overtime penalty drove me insane. When I saw it on replay, I was like, no way we're calling that in overtime right now, right? When's the last time, Ryan, that you've seen teams get 2 power plays in overtime?
Right.
That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So I don't think I think the Bruins have a reputation. I don't think that,
and it's an earned reputation.
It totally is. There's been times this year where, listen, love you, mean it, but like the broadcast on TV when I'm watching at home, because I can't. I've been trying, Ryan. I can't sync up you guys and the TV. It drives me mental, so I can't do it. I have you on my headphones,
by
but
the TV people to avoid.
I think it really is. But there's been times this year where like I've listened to the broadcast and I'm like, all right, leave the penalties alone. They're doing it. This is what they are. This is who they are. But when the other team has an equal reputation, it's kind of like, all right, well, why are they not getting called for it? Like that part is very annoying. It was what it was, but I think that like it also does highlight my big fear is that this team takes too many penalties, whether they're earned or not, and it puts a huge strain on their PK guys, and it keeps Pastrnak and Geeky on the bench. And that might be their Achilles heel because their PK has not been good this year. It's had pockets where it's been excellent, but it's clicking at, I think, 68% thereabouts since the break. So it's just not, it has not been very good this year.
No. And, listen, you can't give a team that has Nikita Kucherov and, guys like that on their power play 8 opportunities. You just can't. You can't give them 5-on-3 after 5-on-3. They're going to burn you. And it allowed them to get back in that game. They get the goal by Bjorkstrand happens 10:28. They get a power. That was with McAvoy in the box. Then Kastelik takes the penalty, which, as we said, should have been even up. So you managed to get through that one. And in the middle of that, you've got the Swayman fight, the whole thing. And then you kind of get bad luck, right? Swayman swats the puck out of the air, goes over the glass, delay a game. Nothing you can do about that. 13 seconds later, they call Jeannot for interference. And then a minute and a half after that, Corrali closes his hand on the puck, which, again, you know what? It happened. Like, referee doesn't have a lot of discretion there. That's a penalty. So, ultimately, some bad luck mixed in there, but that's just your team unraveling at a time where you were trying to protect a lead against a team that had started to build some momentum. And now, power play goal, 5-4 game going into the third, totally different at that point.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I do like snippy, sarcastic Charlie McAvoy. I think sometimes it can be a little annoying. Like as a reporter, if you want a question, he's kind of in a mood. But I did love him after the game. Someone asked him, when did the game change? And he went, when they had a 5-on-3 for like 8 minutes. I was like, that's such a good answer. It's a pretty pissy answer, but it's a good one. 617-779-0985. When we come back, we're going to get right to your phone calls here on the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show.
Ty Anderson, Ryan Johnston, and Bob Beers. This is the Shaw's and Star Market.
and you're not blowing the whistle. Oh, no, they blow the whistle. Nobody heard it.
I've never seen anything like that.
You wait till they score and go, no.
Well, here was my question, right? So the official who's down at the end where the Bruins score, the puck goes in. He immediately waves it off.
Yeah.
So he knew that the penalty was against the Bruins too, and he didn't blow it dead either.
I lost my whistle.
Where did you feel like momentum turned in this game?
When they had a 5-on-3 for like 8 minutes.
It wasn't like, he called it a goal and then the other official came flying in and said, no, I had a penalty down the other end, my bad. And then to hear it from the players and Marco after, they didn't really get any sort of explanation.
No, why would they? The only league in America, by the way, that does this, where the officials don't have to ever answer for anything, ever. They do not, and they get so offended when you ask, hey, can we hear from an official on that game-changing call? No. How dare you?
Kelly, did you guys get an explanation on that Pasta call?
No, we didn't get anything. He came over and said sorry.
Oh, well, he said sorry.
That makes it better.
All right, yeah. Yeah, you got boned, but hey, sorry. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, see that we hear stories about that where, a guy calls a penalty or doesn't call a penalty, and then they go back into the locker room during the intermission, they look at the video, and they come back out at the beginning of the next period, and they'll go over to the guy and go, like, you were right. I blew that one. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, you can respect that. Just, hey, sorry, that overtime goal, in front of 64,000 people that didn't count. Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, this is a huge problem for the league that I think they have to address. I don't know how you address it. I don't know if it's a CBA thing, GM's meeting thing, PHWA meeting. I don't know. But, we got to get officials to explain things now. Game has never been faster. Games have never been more power play dependent, I feel. I feel like if you have a lethal power play, you might win a championship.
Use sparingly a pool reporter talking to one of the whoever the lead official is on.
Yeah, it's not every game.
Night. It's like we don't have to have an explanation for every penalty of every game. But especially in a nationally televised game like that, where the whole hockey world is tuned in. Yeah, maybe just pick somebody out of a hat, go down, ask a couple questions. Why didn't the play get blown dead there? And if the official's worth anything, it'd be like, you know what? We screwed it up, but we ultimately got the call right the way that we had determined it needed to go.
Wouldn't be me. I'd bite them.
I don't think you would be asked back.
No, I wouldn't. I'd be like, I hate you. You ruined sports. Anyway, McAvoy had a big week and kicking things off today. Mike in Salem. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I just want to piggyback off the bad roughing. The game from Florida when he got elbowed in the head, that should have been called at least a 5-minute major so they could at least have reviewed it and then made a determination from there. The fact that they got only a 2-minute minor and then I think Florida ended up going on the power play after that was absolutely appalling. I'll hang up and listen to your thoughts.
Mike, thank you for the call.
Go ahead. So to his point, this is about kind of the technicalities of officiating and doing it the right way. We have seen this happen at least 3 times in the last week where there's been a penalty. Going back to the Ranger game, Zibanejad gets called for a high stick. They review it even though they had announced that it was a minor penalty, which then they're not supposed to review. Right? Normally what they say is you call a double minor because there was an injury to Andrew Peak, who took that high stick. Then you go and review it. You can rescind. You can make it a mate, whatever you need to do. They didn't do it in that case, but they went and reviewed it anyway. They overturned it due to the fact that they said it was a follow-through. Well, according to the letter of the law and the rules, the follow-through rule is there for a shot. It's not there for rimming around a puck, which is what Zibanejad was doing there. So they botched that one in a number of different ways. Right? The McAvoy thing, same thing. Call a major so that you can review it. You got a guy, who's laying on the ice for a couple of minutes, who has clearly been hit in the head. Everybody in the building who was watching the play saw it. It wasn't like the puck wasn't anywhere nearby. McAvoy had just gotten rid of the puck. So call it a major and then review it. And then to compound the problem by ending up with Florida getting a power play. out of the whole situation, right? Because they call it a minor, and then the Bruins get essentially a matching minor for going after Vilmanis, and then they get a bench minor for being pissed off that the officials botched the call.
Yeah.
Like that's just not having control of the game as an official, right? You can step up right there and say, we're calling it a major and we're going to review it. And if it's not a major, fine, take it back and we'll sort it out at that point. But you could have called a major penalty there and given the Bruins the 2 for retaliation and still managed to get some semblance of that call right.
They got it all wrong. How about that instead? Let's just get it all wrong. Who cares, right? I mean, this is where the players get pissed off because they're like, all right, so I can't do frontier justice and you're not going to get it right. So what are my options here besides getting concussed? What are the options I have in front of me? Well,
and then there's no fine, no suspension, no
not
anything.
even a hearing, nothing. The league decided, I guess that's clean. It's worth a 2-minute minor for an illegal check to the head. That's what the call was. It wasn't like boarding or any. No, roughing.
It's an illegal check to the head. So they've determined that there was significant head contact there over and above what's allowed. That's only worth 2 minutes.
And I got to say, it really pisses me off about this game in general because this happens, and then at the end of the first period, there's a nothing slash between Zadorov and Tkachuk. They call Zadorov for it, and Tkachuk goes over and is lobbying to the referees. And is basically like, hey, he slashed me. Forget that Tkachuk throws a slash in return. It just misses. You know? They are a loathsome team. And I can respect how they play to a certain degree. I get it. 2011 Bruins were not pristine. However, I lost a lot of respect for Paul Maurice that night. I really did. You got to put Valmanis back out there.
I want to know what was supposedly wrong with him.
Upper body injury. No, I mean fear. Fear was the upper body injury.
Torn cartilage.
It's a joke that he throws that hit and he hides him the rest of the game. Oh, he's got an injury. Why did he play the next night in Tampa?
I'll also say just on that hit specifically, because he's a young player, I'm surprised that there are guys coming up in hockey in 2025, 2026 that still throw hits like that. I think point of contact was really bad. The fact that he left his skates, it's like that should be automatic these days. Like you've seen careers get ended. You've seen careers get altered with guys propelling themselves into the head to make forceful contact, whether it's an elbow or if you're Sam Bennett, a shoulder, which he does a lot, which Ty, I think you're spot on, pointing the finger squarely at Paul Maurice for how this team plays hockey. But I was gobsmacked. Garrett Blank, number 7, the referee, in front of that entire sequence, watched this kid leave his skates and make contact with Charlie McAvoy, and the hand didn't go up. When we just spent, the first half hour of the show talking, I mean, obviously outside of how much fun you guys had down there in Tampa, but just the weird decisions that referees are making or not making in games. And when you have something that should be so textbook obvious you don't have to be a Bruins fan to see how bad that point of contact was, to understand why that was severe and probably warrants a 5-minute major. And to not have any reaction from a referee on it's really like, to say it's a head scratcher doesn't do it enough justice. There's a lot of people responsible for how this whole thing fell out. And maybe you guys can explain it to me too. I feel like when I wanted to go back and watch this and pull up YouTube highlights, game, recap, I feel like the NHL is trying to hide from incidents like this. And I don't know if it's a mandate. I don't know how long it's been going on for, but go on YouTube, go on NHL.com, go and try and find a highlight of this that's not from Chucky Puck's Bruins fan 64 on Twitter. You can't find it because the NHL scrubs all that stuff. And I think it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I think guys like Valmanis are able to throw hits like that because they are protected by sort of the rat behavior of that team being enabled to a certain degree. I mean, Tkachuk did something, I think, pretty crappy the next night against Kucherov, where they're down by 4. He comes out over the boards, doesn't even try to make a hockey play.
That was garbage.
Just goes right behind Kucherov and cross-checks him from behind, like blindsides him. And it's like, how much longer? We're gonna let this go on?
And by the way, he didn't get tossed.
course
right?
not.
They
Why would he?
started throwing. That starts a line brawl essentially,
Yeah.
and guys start getting tossed out of the game. I don't know if you saw the referee reading off his list of penalties.
I did,
all
yeah,
written down, and he goes, 19's got 5 in a game. Nope, I'm sorry, no game for him. It's like, oh, because that's the one guy you probably should send to the room after all that.
And you have to get it. I think you're starting to see players get pissed off about it now. Charlie McAvoy posts the slow motion video of him getting hit, and then a side by side of his face right now, which is back to being blown up. If Charlie McAvoy's not wearing the bubble, that whole thing probably ends a lot worse than it did for him. He's probably not playing the Olympics right now. He's probably not. The bubble may have saved his face right there on that hit. But the NHL has asked themselves, like, all right, when's enough? When do we finally come down on this team a little bit here and say, hey, you guys play like absolute dirtbags.
And this is an easy guy, right? Toss him a game suspension. Right. Who the hell cares?
Who
It's
is
Sandus Vilmanis. The guy's got like 12 games in the league. Like, who are you protecting here? This is not Kachuk, Bennett, Reinhardt, one of those guys. Like, this is a nobody.
Right. Who's hitting one of the premier players in your league who you put in commercials.
That's the point I was going to make. Is it shouldn't matter if it's Charlie McAvoy. It shouldn't matter if you're number one guy or your 15th or your 16th guy off the bench. That kind of hit, I was legitimately surprised that there are 22-year-old professional hockey players that are being coached to throw checks like that. It's like that's something I would expect like Scott Stevens to do 30 years ago. Catch a guy coming across the blue line, which is where this hit happened, and, smoke a guy with... I can't even say Charlie's head was down because he was sending the puck. It was probably closer to like what happened to Nathan Horton all those years ago. But it's really amazing that it's coached like that. It's amazing to me that the NHL is trying to bury this thing too. I was absolutely, I don't want to say appalled because it really makes it sound like pearl clutching, but to just scrub that entire 4 minutes from the game. Like if I said, guys, what is the story of the Bruins and the Panthers? You'd probably go, yeah, Charlie McAvoy getting run in the first period. Well, obviously the NHL doesn't want people to see that. Well, if you don't want people to see that, maybe try policing it harder, and then you won't have to bury it and hide it from people, because I think that's embarrassing for the league to turn around and cut all that stuff out of their game.
No, what they should do is they should be highlighting it because they should have gotten the call right, which is to give the guy a major and maybe toss him out of the game, and then have supplementary discipline. At least throw a fine at him. Do something. Then you can highlight it and say, "See, when something like this happens, we handle it."
Yeah, and the real shame here is that if Tanner Jeannot grabs Velmanis and just beats the bag out of him, Tanner Jeannot's getting tossed from the game and maybe a fine or a suspension. And so the NHL have to make a decision here. Do you want frontier justice, or do you want to handle it yourself? What they're currently doing is not going to work, because a team out there is going to finally get sick of this and go, enough of this team. I'm going to beat the bag out of your best players. I don't care. And I go back to what happened here with Matt Cook and Sean Thornton in 2010. That hit happens. Matt Cook takes out Mark Savard. The Bruins go to the Pittsburgh locker room when Pittsburgh is in Boston 2 weeks later, and they go to Billy Guerin, who's playing at the time for the Penguins, and he goes, "Hey, Cook's got to fight tonight. If he doesn't fight tonight, we're going to go after Crosby and Malkin, and they're not going to have a good night. Like, Z will go after them. I'll go after them. He's got to fight." Like, that has to happen at a certain point here. It can't just be, "Oh, well, we don't do anything wrong. We don't do anything wrong. No, we're fine. We hit." And Paul Maurice, again, he took a big hit in my book, and I already am not a huge fan of him, but like, I think he speaks in these weird platitudes and it's kind of annoying. You got to put him back out there. You got to take that ass whipping gracefully. You got to do it. Like, you can't just be throwing out hits like that and then hide him for the rest of the game.
Well, I just want Bruins still have another game down in Florida later this year, beginning of April. There's a question about whether Vilmanis will be on the roster at that point, because he's not exactly full-time NHLer yet in his career, but like, if he is on the roster, is he getting scratched that night so that he can avoid it? Because Mark Kastelik, Tanner Jeannot, somebody's gonna make sure that he pays for that.
If that happens, then you scratch Kastelik and you have Kastelik dangle him over the balcony. You're like, you want to do it again?
Just chasing him around.
Yeah, just chase him around the press box. Just see a guy running around the corner. We got to take a break here. We're way past it. 617-779-0985. Tom, Steve, Xanadu, Justin, we will get right back to you here after a break on the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show.
Stay tuned for more of the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show on the Sport.
in the Brian Boucher there.
I like Boucher.
I don't.
But, I like him in general, but I'm not sure what he's talking about. Charlie McAvoy
nonsense.
wasn't bent over reaching for a puck. Like, he's like wondering, is McAvoy's head too low to avoid contact? Like, what? He's standing upright.
Goofy. This is a goofy analysis. Useless analysis. Useless. I'd rather you tell me like what the hot dogs in the press box are like instead of, if you're gonna give me that, I'd rather you just not hear you.
Those TNT broadcasts have been tough in general, but I mean, between that and finally when he decided to relent a little bit and decide that Charlie McAvoy's head didn't make contact, was the reverse angle where you can clearly see the skates leave the ice. And I kind of put that, I mean, a producer's got to get in his ear. No, listen, Brian, you're way off on this. But also, I don't know how TNT, and we just saw this with, in the playoffs 2 years ago with TNT, with Sam Bennett sucker punching Brad Marchand and knocking him out. 24 hours it took to get the actual angle of the incident to broadcast on their airwaves. And I look and go, like, what are we doing? What are we talking? I give credit to Anson Carter and Chelios. I obviously give credit to RJ and Bob. Were all over it in real time. I don't know what Brian Boucher was seeing, though. Maybe it's a goalie thing.
No, he stabbed that guy. No. If you look, he fell onto the knife. It was just aimed at him. Huh? What? I just don't get it. I mean, I understand it's a hard job, but like that is just, I mean, we're going to do that now, really? Like that's not even, that's worthless analysis. Tom and Jefferson. Tom, what's going on?
Hey guys, I want to say thanks real quick for, not falling in line with the other hockey media that's doing the like, tut fans, don't get mad at the referees, blame the Bruins. Like, yes, they have some issues that they are responsible for. Like, they do take too many penalties, but to pretend that, like, the last two games wasn't about the refs is silly. It's silly when you lose 6-5 in a shootout where you had actually scored the sixth goal. That gets called back, and the other team is on 5-on-3s for like 8 minutes based off of some dubious penalties. Yes, Kastelik was a penalty. When 3 guys jumped him after that, that should have at least been evened up. When, Corrali was a penalty. Yes, Swayman was a penalty. Then you have, but you also have, like, Jeannot's, nothing interference, which is, like, let go all over the ice, including in that game for Tampa, and Tampa doesn't get any calls against them. That's a joke. Obviously, the McAvoy hit was a joke. And then I got to say, I was annoyed as well that the refs, after going into the room and seeing that, appeared to decide that they were only going to call penalties against Florida. It's just like, I don't know. It's horrendous and a really bad look for the league. And also, TJ Luxmore just looks like a dumb guy and is like routinely awful and has been for years. It's really frustrating. One thing I will say, you talked about the idea of like frontier justice. It seems to work for the Panthers. It worked for the Bruins last time we won the Cup. I don't know why Mikey Eyssimont wasn't going after Aaron Ekblad or Reinhart or one of those guys. And last little bit, the one thing I will fault the Bruins for, and is actually something I wouldn't mind seeing someone like a small rental purchase for, is we need some penalty kill help, because if this is the way the league is going to go, then we got to get better on the penalty kill, and our guys aren't currently getting it done. Thanks, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pick one right now. PK guy or shootout specialist? What are you picking up?
I mean, shootout specialist.
And that might be the debate here.
Last time we don't have shootouts in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm not terribly concerned about the shootout thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of an issue. It's been a bit only.
There's some head scratching decisions being made about who gets to go in the shootouts and who doesn't.
We'll see.
I mean, you can talk about that.
Steven Stoneham has
rolling Charlie McAvoy out in the shootout the other night as your third shooter that's an interesting call.
Steve, what do you got about the shootout today?
I'm glad you mentioned the shootout. You brought that up because you mentioned that there's about 25 to 26 games left, and points are going to be at a premium. And, an overtime loss is one, a shootout win is two. And I can't get by the fact that they 2 shootouts in a row, and the Bruins' leading goal scorer and one of the top goal scorers in the NHL, Morgan Geekie, hasn't been involved in either one. And if you go with just a gut reaction of someone maybe who's having a good night or a hot night, a guy like Mikey Eyssimont who had 2 goals and who's been dying and fighting to get back into the lineup, if you're going to use a gut reaction, we're not throwing a bone at him and let him take part in the shootout. So that's just my concern with it, because the shootout points are at a premium, and they don't seem to have a guy. Their scoring's been balanced, but they don't seem to have a guy that they can put out there that they feel confident that maybe can do what Marchand did against them. So I'll be interested in hearing what you guys say about the shootout. Thank you.
I mean, Mikey Eyssimont had scored a breakaway goal earlier in the game.
Arguably 2 of them.
Right.
Like the first one was kind of like a partial break.
Right. But the second one was free and clear,
sure.
nobody anywhere close to him, and he goes around Bobrovsky, made a great play, ends up scoring that goal. I probably would have thrown him out there the other night.
Yeah.
I know it's not necessarily his forte. Just to the caller's point, like Morgan Geekie.
Not good on breakaways.
Tremendous player. How does he score most of his goals? One-timers and
snapshots.
One-timers and tip-ins.
Doing the old Chara
Right.
in the shootout.
It's not a guy who's like you're used to seeing carrying the puck to the front of the net, right? He's scoring in different ways than that. So that's not necessarily like coaches will tell you that, we practice this, and so you kind of get a feel during practice of who's good at this and who's not. And it's not necessarily always the guys that you would expect that are the best at it. So far this year, nobody has really shown. I mean, I guess Husnudinov, who had he had the game winner in, I think it was the Islander game earlier this year. And other than that, I wouldn't say anybody's really kind of stood out.
I mean, their best shootout guy's been Middlestad, probably.
Yeah.
That's probably their best one.
He's the only guy who's been part of all 5 of them so far.
Yeah. They're not a good shootout team, which is frustrating because their goaltenders are making saves in the shootout. Their goalie save percentage is I think the 5th or 6th best in hockey, but their shooting percentage is 3rd worst.
I mean, you put Pasta out there at the end of the Tampa game and he hit the post.
Well, so why are they not going to their top guys? Why, Marco, why are you not using your top guys in the shootout?
I didn't see him score yet, so that's something. Again, our top guys, I didn't see him score yet. So I mean, again, that's going to be something on us too, just to try to help him out and see what we can do better to score some of the goals.
So he was asked directly about Pastrnak, and that's the I haven't seen him score yet in the shootout. If you look at their top guys, their projected top line when they're healthy, Lindholm, Geekie, and Pastrnak, they're a combined 0 for 5 in the shootout this year. They got to score. Pasta
is just 10 for 44 in his career in the shootout.
That's
less than 25%.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not a great percentage. I mean it's not his forte right now. He did score, I believe, it was a penalty shot goal against New York in that 10-2. That was him, right? I think who got that shot. I want to say it was Pastrnak that got it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think there was a penalty shot goal. I don't know if it was the New York game. I know that Swayman made a save on a penalty shot in that game. I want to say that Pastrnak had a penalty shot goal this year, but it may have been last year too. These games all blend together. There's 1,000 of them. No, but he has been good in the shootout, and some guys are, and some guys aren't. Charlie Coyle was great in the shootout. He was great. He's one of the best guys in the NHL in the shootout. But to Sturm's point, which he kind of brought up in a separate answer, these points might matter. They might. If you get into a dogfight down the stretch here and shootouts are on the rise and your team as a team you're scoring on once every 6th attempt, that's not great, right? And so you practice it more, you go with more hunches, you go with more whatever. I think I've said it before on this show, but my shootout strategy would be youngest to oldest. The young guys grew up with it. I thought he was going by height the other day. He begins with Arvidsson, and then he goes to Sedinov, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute here. We going by height? If Matty Poitras was next, I would be like, they're going by height. Would have been a real thing. But, I mean, they're important, right? I don't love them. I don't get too high or too low after a shootout loss because it is a coin flip, but if you get into a spot where like every point matters and you can't bury a shootout goal, but your goalies are making saves at the other end, that's gonna frustrate a coach because it's like, why is this hard for us?
Well, even to precede the shootout, what did you guys think of the Bruins' execution in the 3-on-3 overtime against the Panthers?
You know, I think 3-on-3s they used to be electric, and now they're like a little bit. Teams have kind of figured out how to coach against them and how to strategize against them. I thought they had. I looked at that as like a. I thought they were tired. I thought some of their best players were really tired in that game. I do not think that Pastrnak had a great game in Sunrise on Wednesday. I thought Minton was gassed. I thought their best player was arguably in that overtime Husadinov for the defensive plays.
Husadinov, and I was tough on him earlier in the season. That overtime is over in 10 seconds if Jonas Korpisalo doesn't make the stops that he does. Because Kastelik wins the faceoff, gets off the ice, and McAvoy joins them. And then at that point, nobody knows the coverage because Marat is out there waving his arms around going, I got him. Who's got the other two? I really was not thrilled with. I didn't have as big an issue in Tampa. I thought that Florida 3-on-3 was a tough watch. And you can I'll listen to, they're burnt out. It's game 9,000 of 82. I can understand that. But when it's your top guys, when it's, Charlie McAvoy and Morgan Geekie hammering one as he's getting over the blue line and David Pastrnak looking weird. I thought the combinations were weird because I think at one point it was Marat was out there. I think it was Marat, Fraser Minton, and then Nikita Zadorov. And Nikita Zadorov tried to dangle and fell. And that led to an odd man rush going the other way. And it's just at this point I'm going like, are we just really trying to escape with a point and get out of here with our help? Or are we trying to win a game here? Because I'm questioning the latter.
Yeah, I don't think their best players had a great night on Wednesday. And
no, it was, if you actually went down the list, and I think I'm going to pull up the stat sheet here. Pasta in that game, and he had an assist, but he had 10 shot attempts, and 8 of them got blocked. Yeah. He had 2 on goal and 8 shots that were blocked. He had 6 giveaways in the game, and those giveaway stats are kind of touchy about what you would consider a giveaway. I think there were probably a few more that he could have been potentially credited with there. It was a rough night for him. I think there's no question. Listen, it has been a grind. There's no question about it. And, for some of your top guys, they're not getting a break here over the next 3 weeks. We were talking about it during the outdoor game. Tampa gets their goaltender and one of the best players in the world who get to sit home for 3 weeks because they're Russian. They don't get to take part in the Olympics. And so, while they're sending about half their roster over there, 2 of their most important guys are going to be nice and rested here coming back from the break. That's not something that most teams have. It's certainly not something that the Bruins have.
No, Pasta played almost 28 minutes in that game and then jumps on a flight to go be part of the opening ceremonies.
They all did. Swayman was leaving next morning. McAvoy was leaving next morning. It's been it is a absolute crash course in getting over there. And I mean, when they named Hampus Lindholm to the roster, happy for Hampus, but I was like, I'd almost rather you be home. Like, you've played a lot of hockey. You've been banged up this year. Like, I'd rather you not do that. But Hampus didn't get to play last year in the Four Nations because he was hurt. So, obviously these guys want to represent their country, but I think especially if you missed out on last year's tournament for whatever reason, in the case of Pastrnak, the Czech Republic was involved in that tournament, right? So you want to be in this tournament. It means a lot to you. I understand it, but it does. I understand why owners are not about it. You get why, because you're like, we're pausing our year for this, and you might get hurt.
We had Gary Bettman on the pregame show when we were in Tampa, and I asked him about the Olympics, and I kind of knew, his response, what his responses have been to this question over the years. But I asked him about the importance of the Olympics to the league, and his response was, it's important to the league because it's important to the players. Right. It's not, which is his way of saying it's not at all important to the league. We would just as soon keep playing and allow the Olympics to have a junior hockey tournament or an amateur hockey tournament while we're going through our NHL season. But it's important to the players. Therefore, it's part of the collective bargaining agreement. Therefore, we're going to shut the league down for 3 weeks. I tend to disagree with that. I think it brings more eyes to the sport, which can't help but be good for the NHL when they come back from the break and put on, the time of year, which is, the best hockey that you generally see is down the stretch of the regular season and on into the playoffs. It works for me, and I think, we see some of the moments that we have seen when the NHL players have been in the Olympics in the past. Think about, that USA-Russia game, right? The Oshie going in the shootout like 12 times in a row or whatever it was, right? That was an event. I remember that was back when it was Dave Gosher and Bob Beers and I were sitting in the studio on a Saturday morning because that game started at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday. We were sitting in the studio watching that play out in real time while we were hosting this show. And it was like, this is a moment that, like, not just hockey fans are going to remember for a long time, just regular fans in general, regular sports fans in general, people who don't watch hockey on a regular basis are tuning in at 9 a.m. on a Saturday and seeing something they've never seen before. And it was thrilling. Like, that's stuff that, we hopefully get out of this tournament here in the next couple of weeks.
One that we know that he does love is outdoor games. Xanadu, what's going on?
Hey, so I do love outdoor games. I'm going to do that thing where I express opinions on the air in the hopes that if I say it loud enough, the NHL will listen to me. Because my opinion on this is I feel like the NHL managed to do something perfect. They managed to do to New Year's Day what football has done to Thanksgiving. And way back when they started the Winter Classic, having it on January 1st was perfect. And when that Fenway game came around in 2010, it was something we were looking forward to. We walked out of there, and the next question was, when are they going to have a game at Gillette? And then what did they do? They did what Gary Bettman always does. They messed it up. They created the Stadium Series. They said, okay, we have these other games as well. And when they talk about the dwindling interest, I get people are there, but they're also losing the viewers on TV. It's simple. Go back 1 o'clock on New Year's Day, and then you load up the rest of the day with your marquee matchups. And it's straightforward. The NFL's been doing it for 70-something years. Like, they gave you the template, you followed it, you did it perfectly, and then you messed it up. Because I sit there and I think, like, as a season ticket holder, I dread when we have a Stadium Series game that's not the Winter Classic because I don't want to pay 3 times face value or 3 times what I pay for my season tickets to watch a game at new Everett Football Stadium in a seat that's worse than my original one. Like, just go back to Winter Classic, January 1st, and, like, stop trying to saturate the market, and your specialness will come back instantly. That's all I got. That's my rant for the day.
No, thanks for calling, as always.
Allow me to retort. Mm-hmm. 2.1 million viewers on average.
Most watched game
It is
ever,
the
right?
most watched regular season game ever on cable for the National Hockey League. It is the most watched regular season game since the 2019 Winter Classic, which was Bruins Blackhawks. It had close to 3 million viewers. And that was on network TV. It's a huge hit for the NHL. If that game on a Sunday night is on ESPN indoors, it probably I won't even say probably. It draws under 1 million viewers.
Bar Rescue gets more viewers.
Because that is what NHL games on a regular basis get, like 700, 800,000 viewers on average. This one got close to 3 times that. That's why the NHL does it, in addition to the fact that they can sell 64,000 tickets to that game instead of 18,000 tickets for a game in Tampa. In addition to the spectacle and being able to show off, because there was a lot of that talk this week about what it says about the state of hockey in Florida and the growth that they've seen over the last couple of decades, that the Florida Panthers host the Winter Classic in Miami, and then we go over to Tampa for the Stadium Series a month later, and we can fill both of those buildings and have these great events down in Florida, and we can do anything, and we can pump our chest and all that. That the NHL got exactly what they wanted out of it. They showed they have not oversaturated the market. while most of us, and I'm in that boat too, I don't get excited for these games anymore. Like the fact that, there's an outdoor game and like the Winter Classic, I was like, whatever. Now, obviously, I was excited for the Tampa game because I was going to broadcast it. I was going to be there.
Yeah.
But if I were just a regular run-of-the-mill viewer who's not a Lightning fan and not a Bruins fan, like I probably would have tuned in and checked it out. Maybe the goalie fight keeps me around a lot longer, or because seeing a team rally from 4 goals back might have kept me around a lot longer. But I wouldn't have made that appointment viewing for my Sunday night. Oh, I got to be home so I can see the Bruins and the Lightning. But throw the outdoor part of it in there. Throw a few Pirates on TV. 2.1 million. Biggest audience ever for the NHL on cable.
And John Cooper dressing like Scarface.
What the hell was that?
He was Lou Bega, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what he was, but it made
wrong part of Florida.
Yeah, it's like Scarface is a Miami thing, right? Like that's not
100%.
I like the idea of like them being like, we're gonna be Buccaneers. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be Scarface. So like, well, no, we're not gonna be Buccaneers. And he's like, no, I'm Scarface.
That was refused to do the
it was
costume. Bizarre. I mean, he's walking around after the game with a giant stogie in his mouth.
Yeah, he made the whole hallway smell like cigar smoke, and I hate the smell of cigars. And I was like, ugh, this is gross. That's one of those one smell. I can't do the smell of cigars. I hate the smell of cigars. But that's besides the point, though.
The Bruins head and shoulders destroyed the Lightning in all of the pomp and circumstance with the Revolutionary War, Patriot outfits, coming in with a speaker playing fife and drum music, the whole 9 yards. Coaches look great in their nice 3-piece. Those things looked like they had some warmth to them in those nice 3-piece suits.
Yeah, and then here comes the mask.
The Lightning shows up wearing, you got John Cooper dressed like Pacino and Scarface, and then you've got them just showing up in Buccaneers uniforms with like helmets and stuff. Like,
so when Cooper shows up like that, I'm in the press box frantically Googling, did Monty Kiffin dress like this? Like what is this? Is this an old Buccaneers head coach? No, he's just being Carlito.
Say hello to my little friend.
He looked like the old manager of Umaga in WWE, Armando Alejandro Estrada. That's what he looked like. I kept waiting for him to take out the cigar and break it. Break him.
Jay Stu's fist pumping somewhere. That's
what it looked like.
So I heard somebody say this the other day, and it's absolutely true. The outfit is exactly the same as Robert Loggia's character in Scarface. Like it's exactly the same, minus the hat. It's the same.
Oh yeah,
it's got same suit, same wide open collar, same pocket square, the whole thing.
Yeah, I like the first.
Did he have the gold chains on?
I think he did have a chain on. I like that when I Google Robert Loggia, the first thing that comes up is Minute Maid orange juice. He had it in a commercial.
Oh yeah, famous for that.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's just what all Canadians think that Florida is. It's just Miami Vice kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
wire crossed. Because the idea is good. It just looked really, really weird when you're surrounded by 50,000 pirates during Pirate Week in Tampa, and there's a pirate ship with cannons behind you.
I mean, you should have done the eye patch and like the peg leg.
Yeah, well, maybe they think it's too. I don't know. They all look like punters because they're all so skinny, and they all look like punters walking into the stadium. All right, and we are way past it. All right, 617-779-0985. Another quick break here. More on the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show.
The Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show will continue with Ty Anderson.
electric vehicles today. Mike Eyssimont lost his job for a little while, is now fighting to stay in the lineup. You talked to him about it. He seems a little angry about not being a full-time member of the team in terms of every night being in the lineup. But right now he's doing enough to, I would say stake his claim there and stay. And they have an interesting decision here. I think when they get fully healthy, you re-sign Steves and he's a part of your roster, and you get some young guys that you're not going to take out right now. But Mike Eyssimont, that was a good goal, good showing by him. I think the thing with Eyssimont that I haven't seen enough of, that's a little bit of a bummer, is the sort of like the pest element. I haven't seen as much of that as I thought I would when they bring him in. I remember him being in Tampa and being like, this guy is so annoying. Man, he's all over the place. I haven't seen a lot of that here in Boston, it feels like.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, listen, and we talked to him back, I remember back in the preseason, and he told us that he felt like there was more offense to his game than some of his past stops had allowed him to show. And it was like, okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. I want to hear that. And there have been times this year, and certainly, the game against Florida the other night where he gets 2 goals is one of those that stands out. But listen, you're not a point-a-game player here. So what are you bringing to the table? When you're playing third and fourth line minutes, and there have been games, I'm just looking at his ice times this year. There have been games where he's played, 4 or 5 minutes.
That Pittsburgh game, I think he played like 5:15 or something like that.
5:48 against Pittsburgh. Yeah. At Vancouver, he played on 4:59 was his season low. 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So what are you doing to increase that ice time, right? You've got on this team, and this is one of the heavier teams in the league, right? You've got guys like Kastelik and Jeannot. Corrali's a different type of a player, but fits really well with those guys. That has become a 3-man unit that you are hesitant to break up.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, Alex Steves and the offense that he can bring you, and good to see him get going in that regard here, getting back into the lineup, because he sat for a couple of games. His goal scoring had dried up. But when you look at Steves, you could at least point to, why is he in the lineup over a guy like Eyssimont? Well, they can use him in different ways. They have been willing to give him a little bit of power play time on that second power play unit. He's strong defensively. He hits. He's a guy who stirs it up a little bit. That's what you need from Mikey Eyssimont if he is going to be in this lineup every night, is you need to see more of that grit that we know is there, that on some nights just hasn't been. And if he's not doing that and he's not scoring, well, why are you keeping him in the lineup?
I mean, it's a really hard. I mean, it's a good problem. It's a hard problem, right? Because you have guys that are kind of like one-dimensional, right? And I don't mean that in like a slight, but like Corrali, it's face-offs and PK. Jeannot and Kastelik, it's physicality. What does Eyssimont bring that you need more of? It's like, and can he bring it more than Alex Steves, which I don't know, because Steves has been playing in all situations now. That's not the case for Eyssimont. He hasn't been doing that. So I'm curious what happens there. It just didn't feel like he's happy with where he is right now.
There's no question. And I wouldn't be if I were him either.
He was asked, he goes, does it feel good to get back in the lineup? He's like, yep, feels good. That's all he said. And it's and then he was kind of saying, he's like, yeah, my confidence is always high. He's like, so when I go home and I lay on my couch, he's like, I realize how hard I'm working. It's like, he sounds like he's pissed. And so something worth watching, I feel like, between now and the deadline. Perhaps.
And that goes back, I'm sure, to where he was before the season, right? He thought, he's coming here to Boston. He's going to get the opportunity that he feels like he maybe hasn't gotten elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, halfway through the season, he's being scratched, 8 out of 10 games or something like that?
It was basically a whole month. And the only reason he got in the Pittsburgh game was Lindholm was precautionary back-to-back. They were going to keep him out. But it wasn't like he was injured. They're like, we're going to be cautious here. We got this guy, so we may as well play him. And he plays 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So it's not even like he really played. It's just like, you're a warm body because we're not going to roll with 11 forwards and 7D.
How have you felt just getting back in the lineup now more regularly?
Yeah, I felt really good.
That was it. And you could tell he was unhappy with that question. You know, I don't think he was mad at the question itself, but more like, why am I being asked about this? Like, I shouldn't be asked. I shouldn't be having to answer these kind of questions.
But you know, and as I said, I understand that frustration, but coaches will tell you, players determine their ice time, right? That it's oftentimes not that difficult a decision to determine who your best 12 forwards are or who your top 6 defensemen are. Now, there can be, you know, changes made because of guys' contract statuses or, you know, guys' injury statuses or what have you. But on any given day, you know, I think Marco Sturm looks at his lineup and says, if everybody is healthy, which unfortunately, especially this season, doesn't happen a whole lot for anybody, but if everybody's healthy, these are my top 4 lines. This is what I know I can roll out there and we can be successful with. And you have to show that you deserve to be part of that. And you have to show it night in, night out. Consistency is so important to these head coaches when they put those lineups together. I can't have you disappear for a game or two and potentially drag your line down with you. Like, I need to know if I plug you in here, exactly what I'm going to get. It I think is why, you know, Marco Sturm loves Victor Arvidsson. Loves him. And he's a good player and has been in this league for a while, but part of the reason that Marco Sturm loves him is he knows exactly what he's going to get from him every given night, right? It's why Alex Steeves gets in the lineup, because you look at him and go, you know what? He may not score for 10, 12, 14 games, but I know we're going to get his best effort. I know he's going to be out there stirring stuff up. I know he's going to get a big hit or two during the course of a game. So at least I know that. And I can count on that part of his game.
That's true. No, it's a big reason why he's been able to stick and why he was given the rope that he was given when he wasn't playing well. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but like he struggled out of the gate. First month or so was not what we're getting out of him now.
Going back to the press conference at the beginning of the season, Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, and some of the comments that were made during training camp about, and it wasn't about Alex Steeves, and it certainly wasn't about Jonathan Aspero at that point, but they get asked about guys coming up from Providence, guys getting those opportunities. And the answer basically is those guys have to come in and take someone's job, right? Jonathan Aspero got his, finally, after all these years in the minors, got his opportunity, came in and took somebody's job away in the top 6, right? Most recently, it's been Yoki Haru for the most part who ends up sitting out. That's a guy who's signed here for 3 years, right? Who's not
cheap either.
Not at cheap money, but he's been supplanted from the lineup because Aspero can come in and do the job and do it effectively. Asamont's kind of in the same boat with Steeves. Steeves got his opportunity, proved that he deserved to be here so much that he, like Aspero, is getting a contract extension. So they've earned their spot. They've stolen a job.
Justin and Lynn. Justin, what's up?
Hey, Ty, I have an issue with the goal that was scored by Pasternak in overtime against Tampa. I thought the goal was well before the whistle, and the whistle was going late, and it was also called by the referee in another zone where you could barely even see it. I just wanted your thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. Thank you for the call. Yeah, I feel as if you got a penalty on the Boston Bruins in that overtime, it's got to be blown dead before the goal is in the back of the net, because now all you're doing is just pissing people off. Now you're making the team angry. You're making the fans in the stands confused. Like, that's got to come earlier. And there's 4 guys out there. If one guy's hand is raised, and everyone knows on the Bruins, someone's got to blow that play dead way before that happens.
Okay, let me turn this around for a second. So, Husnudinov brings that puck up. I mean, he skates pretty much from the corner of the defensive zone all the way into the offensive zone, carrying the puck. And they don't blow the play dead. We played the clip earlier of Charlie McAvoy talking about how Swayman's halfway to the bench when the Bruins score that goal because they're not blowing the play dead. Referee's arm is in the air. Clearly, the penalty must be against Tampa Bay. So Swayman's headed for the bench. What happens if Husnudinov trips over the red line, turns that puck over,
Right.
and Swayman's not in the net now? What happens then?
You would have to say, like, that can't end like that. Like you'd almost have to, because like at that point,
because the referees have created confusion on the ice now.
Yeah, exactly.
That has caused the worth noting there. If you give up an empty net goal in overtime, you forfeit the point, the loser point.
Right.
That's in the rule book.
Right.
Because they don't want both teams just pulling the goalie and playing 4-on-4 into, till somebody scores in an empty net. So they have made it, there's a legitimate penalty there. If you give up an overtime goal into an empty net, you lose your point. So what happens if the officials cause all this chaos and the Bruins end up turning the puck over there and they still don't blow it dead?
And I do want to point out, because there have been people that are like, no, they blew the whistle, you just couldn't hear it. We had, in the press box, we had the on-ice mics hooked up, synced up on the press box. So we were hearing what you were hearing if you were at ice level.
Right.
Didn't hear it. Like, we didn't have typically sometimes have the broadcast going. We didn't have the broadcast. We had the actual on-ice microphones. We heard a lot of the hot mic and a lot of what was going on down there.
Heard Charlie McAvoy talking to the officials.
Oh, yeah. He was pretty happy with how things were going. And I got to tell you, we did not hear that whistle. Did not hear it with those on-ice mics, so there's no way the players heard it. And so if it was blown, it was quite a soft blow, I must say.
Well,
I must admit.
Because I was almost kind of wondering about that, too, when the questions came after the game about, did you guys get an explanation? Like, was it possible? Because, sometimes whistles freeze.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. So you blow into it, and it just kind of makes like a little, like
as made famous in Titanic.
Right.
On the door, just blowing a whistle. That game was as enjoyable as the Titanic sinking in the ocean.
So it's like, okay, maybe it was one of those things like, hey, I was trying to blow my whistle and nothing came out.
Yeah. We run ads for that problem, in case anyone has it. One more call before the break. Mike and Malden. Mike, what's up?
Good morning, guys. Love the show. Thanks for having me on. Just to go back and touch on what you were talking about a little while ago about the Olympics, I got to say I'm not a fan of it. First of all, listen, I'm not here to advocate that we should take them out because it's not going to happen. It's here to stay. But for shutting down the league for 3 weeks, and you think the game is going to grow, that more people are going to watch, it hasn't sold our game at all. And I just don't think shutting down the league for 3 weeks, the schedule has been crazy. These guys are playing almost every other night. There's so many games you're watching now where there's back-to-back, team has to play back-to-back nights. I don't think you're getting the most out of your product with that kind of schedule to begin with. And then on top, then there's the whole, leave it to the college kids. That's what made 1980 so special. So, like I said, I'm not here to advocate that they take them out because I know it's not going to happen. It's here to stay.
You're only half right. You're only half right about 1980.
Thank you, Mike.
The reason 1980 was special is because it was college kids who beat pros. The Soviet Red Army team was they were professionals. That was their job. They were adults. Mm-hmm. They weren't Russian college kids. So if you want to take all NHL players out and you want to have guys from the KHL over in Russia, Russia wouldn't be involved in it, obviously, but you want to have kind of second-tier guys and guys from the Swedish Elite League and whatever playing against, minor leaguers. The World Championships is a prime example.
Yeah, the Worlds are basically, Yeah.
Like how many Americans are tuned in to watch the World Juniors every year? It's to see the 19-year-olds play. Right. It's a great event, don't get me wrong, and it's fun hockey to watch, but most people don't care. You will get more eyes on the Olympic tournament because the NHL players. You will. Now, the point about the schedule and the impacts that it has, there's no reason why this season shouldn't have started 2 weeks earlier. To help space out the games a little bit more, give the guys a little bit more rest, a little bit more practice time. That's absolutely dropping the ball by the league.
Yeah, and I think if the NHL had it their way, they wouldn't have the Olympics. They would have the World Cup of Hockey, which was fine. But the problem was that you you had to have NHL players involved in it, right? Like all the rosters were NHLers, and not every country can have a roster of
right.
Like that's why you had Team Europe, which it was fun, but it's not what they want.
Well,
right?
I mean, it's like Team Czechia. You mentioned earlier, Pavel Zacha can't play. He's being replaced by a guy who plays in the Czech league. He's not by an NHLer.
No, it's probably travel. I mean, yeah. I mean, we'll that's something we're gonna have to keep on watching. See if Lindholm plays for Team Sweden. By the way. All right, one more break here, and then the final segment in your calls on the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show.
Ty Anderson, Ryan Johnston, and Bob Beers. This is
we'll get to it next week as well. But we do have a final segment here, so I want to bang out some calls here. Rolly in Nova Scotia. Rolly, what's going on?
Hi. How you doing?
How's it going?
Good. I love listening to you guys. I got a couple quick points about the game in Tampa. I know you guys have rehashed it. Me and my buddy, big fans since the late 60s, since the Bobby Orr days. And I don't think I've ever been as angry watching a Bruin game than watching that game. I didn't even watch the third period. I was so angry. And my first point is about the coach. I said, my buddy called me up right after the game, and first thing I said was, if I'm the coach, I'm lambasting the officiating in that game, and I'm taking the fine. And my other point is, since they won the Cup in 2011, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a trend developing. I don't think I'm being, excuse me, I don't think I'm being a conspiracy theorist, but the Bruins, they don't get any calls. And if you remember that, especially Canucks fans, but a lot of fans were saying, "Oh, it's a big bad Bruins all over again. They play dirty. They won the Cup because they played dirty." And the trend is that they don't get any calls, and it's just frustrating to watch. It just I don't think I'm being a conspiracy theorist pointing that out. It's so frustrating to watch the lack of calls that the Bruins don't get, and the calls that are against them. That it's just, I don't know what to say.
No, it's an interesting point. I mean, you're not the only person who feels that way. Charlie McAvoy, after the game, was asked point blank, what do you think about the calls, or your own team's calls in your favor? And McAvoy outright says, we didn't get any calls. I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't get any calls. So,
I mean,
not alone in terms of feeling that way.
Earlier this season, we had a little conversation with David Pasternak, and he talked about his level of frustration because there are and since we've had that conversation, I've noticed it quite a few times. He gets taken down, and it doesn't get called. Like, he doesn't get the kind of superstar calls that you would expect most people to get, especially when they're at his level. That he tries to go around a guy, he gets taken down, and they just play on. And it's like, okay, yeah, it happens, from time to time with everybody. Like, referees are going to miss things, but it seems to happen to him a lot. And look, it's going to happen to him more than, he carries the puck a lot. Same reason we talk about, he's got more giveaways than most players. Well, yeah, because he's got the puck on his stick more often. But you see him try to make a play and see him get taken down, and arm stays down. And you can see that frustration that has continued to build on him throughout the course of the season, where like he's just kind of at his wit's end. Like, what do I need to do?
Yeah, he wanted one in the first sequence of the Florida overtime as well. Like, he kind of got up, like, just got tackled.
Yeah.
How's there nothing coming this way here? Let's go to Ian in Wisconsin. Ian, what's up?
Hi, Ty. How's it going? So with like that hit on McAvoy, when I'm looking at the league, I just think, what is it going to take? Because I'm thinking it's going to take another Todd Bertuzzi incident before they actually start enforcing their own rules.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, thank you for the call. It's really hard to know what the tipping point is going to be. I think it might take somebody simply grabbing a Panther and beating the bag out of them, but it takes a certain personality type, right? Like, not everyone wants to do that. Like, I've kind of said, like, I said it during 2024 when they knocked out Brad Marchand. Someone's got to grab Barkov and just start swinging. Nobody wants to do that because, like, they respect Barkov and they respect what kind of player he is. I can tell you that in the first game after the Marchand hit, the opening faceoff, Charlie Coyle says to Barkov, like, "Hey, I want to go. Drop him." And Barkov shakes his head and says, "I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." He rejected the offer. Coyle gave him the offer, like, "Hey, I want to fight you on the opening faceoff. Drop your gloves." Barkov said, "I'm not doing that." So what do? They settle for the next best thing, which was Charlie McAvoy trucking Sam Bennett to try to begin the game. Like, all right, like we're gonna do this, and Pat Maroon goes after Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett won't drop the gloves. Like, so you kind of have to force the issue with these guys, but it takes a certain personality type to get someone to say, no, you don't have an option. If that happens, then they'd be like, all right, we got to get this more in line here.
Just go, to the caller's point, the league perspective, right? At least clean it up after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your officials maybe mishandled it, right? They should have called it a major so they could review it. They didn't do that. All right, so there's problem number one. Problem number two is that the league decides no supplementary discipline, not even a fine for that level of a hit.
That part shocks me.
George Paros is on the beach somewhere, probably. He's still in charge of player
like
safety,
they just suspended Russ the other day from Pittsburgh for 3 games because he, for a hit to the head. Like, it's not like they don't wield that power on occasion.
They're not like they're on vacation.
I feel like every other day I get an email from the league that so and so's been fined for. They just fined somebody for being the aggressor in a fight the other night. I think it was the Tampa Florida game.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so Vilmanis is. I mean, he's on a rookie contract. Look, fine him like $2-3 grand. He doesn't have.
Get ready to live on the streets, bud.
Those fines aren't exactly earth shattering to begin with, because of the way that the CBA is structured, but do something to indicate, okay, this was worse than a 2-minute minor hit.
Closing things out today, we have Jake in the suburbs. Jake, what's going on?
Yeah, so I think finishing up on that, I think a legal check to the head being a 2-minute minor is just kind of ridiculous. It's like that's the same as like hooking. But going back to the point about the Bruins not getting calls, I think that's it's kind of lazy, frankly. It's like, if you look at, especially coming out of the Tampa game, like Kasic's penalty, stupid. Lindholm's been sloppy all year. Closing the hand on the puck, stupid. So like you can say maybe it's a general trend with some things like Pastrnak, but coming out of the Tampa game, I don't have any sympathy for the Bruins. But then the last thing, I really hope at the trade deadline, Eyssimont and Joki Harju, they can find some way, to send those guys out. Because I think, Steve's contract kind of tells you from a money perspective, Eysimont's not long for the Bruins next year, especially given, Hagen's potentially coming through. And I really would love to see them find some way to get Joki Harju's monies out, because I'd much rather have Peak for the next 3 or 4 years at, $4 million as opposed to Joki Harju at $3 million.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, I think to that point, they're paying Steves more money next year than they're paying Eyssimont.
Yes.
I mean, Eyssimont has a longer track record in the NHL. Like that kind of tells you right there. And also to Jake's point, they got, I think, 11 of 12 forward spots already filled for next year. You got to shed some of these guys, right? Because
Arvidsson would be the only one, right?
Arvidsson's the only guy without a contract.
He's a UFA at the end of the year.
Yeah. And who knows what they do with that, because he's been good for them.
He's been good, and coach really likes him.
Yeah, I think Eyssimont might be on the way out. I wouldn't be surprised if Joki Harju's on the way out, especially for their money matching purposes, because they got to move some money out to bring somebody in if they want to do that. So we'll wait and see. Next week, we will be here. Hope the Patriots win a Super Bowl between now and then. This has been the Shaw's and Star Market Hockey Show. Ryan, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Happy to do it.
Yeah,
good to see this place every now and then.
It's not a bad place.
You're always welcome.
Always welcome. I am Ty Anderson. That is Ryan Garvin behind the glass. We will talk to you next week. Bye.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sport.